When it comes to weight loss, no two people are the same. That's why Noom builds personalized plans based on your unique psychology and biology. Take Brittany. After years of unsustainable diets, Noom helped her lose 20 pounds and keep it off.
I was definitely in a yo-yo cycle for years of just losing weight, gaining weight, and it was exhausting.
And Stephanie. She's a former D1 athlete who knew she couldn't outtrain her diet, and she lost 38 pounds.
My relationship to food before Noom was never consistent.
And Evan, he can't stand salads, but he still lost 50 pounds with Noom.
I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. Even through the pickiness, Noom taught me that building better habits builds a healthier lifestyle. I'm not doing this to get to a number. I'm doing this to feel better.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom users compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
We made this.
Hello everyone, and welcome to We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek Discovery and now a Star Trek Strange New Worlds podcast. Your usual hosts are, of course, Mike Slammer and Ian Buckley, legends as they are, but they are both off on a secret Section 31 mission, maybe with Emperor Giorgio, maybe not. We'll leave that up to you to decide. And in their stead, until a few episodes' time when they will be back talking some Strange New Worlds, is me, your host for this episode, Tony Black, and regular, or at least previous, We Are Starfleet guests, Craig McKenzie and Ashley Thomas. How are you doing, guys?
Oh, good. Going good. Ready to talk some original Trek, kind of.
Doing well. Happy to talk Star Trek anytime, any day, and this new Strange New Worlds is good stuff.
Yeah, it's exciting. This is because obviously, as I say, We Are Starfleet, which Mike and Ian created as predominantly being Discovery, but we talked about it, and I sort of oversee on the We Made This network the Trek projects, and we talked about, do we start a new one for Strange New Worlds, or given it is Starfleet, given it is the USS Enterprise, do we just carry on with We Are Starfleet with you, the established listeners? Because obviously Star Trek Strange New Worlds is kind of a Discovery spin-off anyway, so it makes sense to have it under this umbrella and at this home. But we've got a slightly changed team, as you can hear. So the idea is that we're going to rotate coverage of Strange New Worlds over the next few weeks. Mike and Ian, as I say, are going to be back. I think they're back for episode 5 as it stands, but schedules can change. They're going to be back together to cover one, but it's going to be myself, Craig, and Ashley hosting with different guests every week in a kind of rotation. So you're going to get lots of viewpoints on Strange New Worlds from lots of different Trek fans. So it's an exciting time, and I guess this is the start of a whole brand new show, and this is always a big deal. The last time we had this live action wise was the start of Picard a couple of years ago, and since then we've had the animated show, sure, but this is a slightly bigger deal, and it's a much bigger deal, and it's much more exciting in many ways. So let's talk then about what everyone's tuned in to hear us discuss. Strange New Worlds, episode 1, titled Strange New Worlds of Season 1. Teleplay by Akiva Goldsman, and from a story by Akiva Goldsman, Alex Kurtzman, and Jenny Lumet. And this is obviously the relaunch pad for the USS Enterprise, the 5-year mission, the original 5-year mission, set obviously after Discovery, set after Such Sweet Sorrow, which was the last time we saw Pike and co warp off with a whole new set of adventures to come.
Apart from
and
in the shorts.
In this story,
they're in the shorts, some of them.
Well, and that's true, actually, yeah, and the short treks. And in this story, we begin with Pike wearing, if you caught our round table before, what we termed the beard of sadness, and he is at his ranch in Montana, and he's very down. and he's recalled back into service by a very pushy admiral when Una disappears, and he's forced to get back onto the Enterprise and head for an alien planet where a first contact mission seems to have gone a little bit wrong with the Enterprise crew in order to save his number one. So that's the basic plot in a very, very short nutshell of Strange New Worlds episode 1. So let's talk about what we thought about it in general. Let's give this a rating out of 10 and give us your general thoughts before we start to unpick it a little more. So, Craig, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. So my rating would be 8.5. I thought it was a really strong start to the series. I like the setup, I liked the characters, I like the way the story flowed. I liked that it was a very old school Trek story in a way. And I liked that it was a sequel to the Discovery finale as well, the season 2 Discovery finale, as in the story exists because of what happened in that episode in a way, and how that ties into Pike's emotional arc. The sense of responsibility feels is twofold because of his role in that and his role on this planet that they go to. So yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a really strong start. I'm bursting to see more.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 as well. I am definitely pro Beard of Sadness. I thought that was a good look. Also, just on a completely shallow thing, like, I'm watching this and I'm like, Anson Mount has really great hair. I'm watching more. It's like, all of these people have really great hair. Like, how is this, this is the most amazing, 23rd century hairstyling is fantastic. Anyway, sorry, that, I never do, here is the most shallow thing I could possibly say about this, and, sorry, I never do that, because one, I'm a lady, and that makes me think people won't take me seriously. Two, it's just not a thing that I typically notice, but I'm watching this, it's like, good grief, I've got hair.
You are right, though.
23rd century, but not 60s, weirdly, because the fashion in the original series was heavily 60s influence, so it's interesting that hasn't really carried through here. I would have quite liked him, since it's Pike, to do a bit of a 50s type influence because of it being before the original series, about 10 years before.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, that tracks with the fact he's watching the Day the Earth Stood Still, because I'm pretty sure that's 50s movie. Right.
Overall, I thought it was a really solid opening. There's a couple of things I've got questions about, but these might be resolved later, and that's fine. But overall, really nice introduction. I kept thinking about how interesting it is that this is a pilot that is kind of beget from an unused, that it's beget from an unused pilot, but then is also beget from, Star Trek Discovery as well. So just thinking about all of these different influences and how they've went into the creation of this show was really interesting and fun. But
took almost 60 years for this pilot to get picked up. It's the longest time in history, isn't it?
Lots of good ways to introduce new characters, not without over-explaining, because, again, we've watched these shows, we know where they're coming from, we know about everything with Discovery. Yeah, overall, I had a lot of fun with it. I haven't gotten to watch, we have been blessed with screeners, thank you, Paramount. So I've not gotten to watch the rest of the episodes they've sent me yet. So, but overall, this first one right out of the gate is really solid. I think it's going to be a thing that brings back in old school fans who have, or don't care for 2009 Trek, don't care for Discovery or Picard or any of the newer Trek shows. I think this is going to be what brings in the older fans back into the fold.
I think it's better for us to discuss this without having seen the rest as well, though. Because otherwise it's like, well, we know this gets picked up later, so it's not a problem in this episode because we know it gets picked up later. I don't like apologising for things because I know that the answer comes later, because it still means that the thing is unsatisfying in the initial episode because you don't know if they're going to deal with it or how they'll deal with it. So I think doing this from the point of view of everybody who's listening is watching it is the best way to do it. That's my take.
I entirely agree. Full disclosure, we were given the first 5 episodes, so we have a few that we can still watch ahead of time.
Full disclosure, humble brag, whatever you want to term it.
Yeah. Whichever hashtag you want to use. But that's the thing, we haven't watched them. None of us have, and I think that was a conscious decision, like you say, to make sure that we're clear-eyed about this. It could be that the quality dips in the next 5 episodes. I hope not. I'm confident it won't. But yeah, we wanted to review it on its own terms, and I am gonna punch it, to quote Bruce Greenwood's Pike, in terms of a score higher than you.
Ooh.
I'm going for a 9 with this, because I loved it.
Tony
I
positive
absolutely
about
loved
Star
it.
Trek.
I
Red
know.
alert.
Mirror Universe Tony.
Black alert, more like.
Black alert.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't tell, but I've got the evil beard,
not a beard of
not the beard of sadness. No, I've got a beard of joy right now, because I loved this. I absolutely loved it completely. I thought it was the best Star Trek pilot since Broken Bow. I was a big fan of Broken Bow, really. I thought that was a great Star Trek pilot for Enterprise. One of the best, in fact, if not the best, of the original 90s ones. And I think it's just great. It really feels like they know what this is. Well, it's Star Trek. Ultimately, this is Star Trek. This is much more traditional on the basis of this pilot Star Trek, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, crucially. And you know, I was a big fan. I still do like the Vulcan Hello, the first episode of Discovery, a lot. I think that's a really, really good piece of writing, a good episode. And that too has a lot of 90s Trek stylistics to it, absolutely. But it's not a pilot in the sense of the word in the normal way. We don't even see Discovery until episode 3. It's a prologue in many ways, that pilot. So I don't count that in the same way. And Picard's was, again, a really good starting point, but it's the beginning of a serialized narrative. Whereas this is a traditional pilot. It's a pilot of old. They might as well have just called this pilot, like in the old days, because this establishes the template, and it's a template we know. That's the thing. It is a template we already know, that we experienced in the past. We experienced in the 1960s. We experienced in 1987 with Star Trek The Next Generation. It is the crew of the Enterprise exploring the galaxy. And that is kind of all not necessarily just the Enterprise, but it's kind of all I want from Star Trek, if I'm honest. It really is. If I dial it down, what I want from a Star Trek show is a crew and a ship and explorations in the stars, new worlds, alien planets, weird anomalies, all this stuff. And I think this episode does it so well, and it evokes, I think, the original series in a lot of ways that we'll get into, without just copying it. It updates it, it modernizes it, it takes what, like you said, Craig, what Discovery put in place, and it makes sure it references it, which was another thing I was really happy about. So I was so chuffed. I was so chuffed when I came at the end. I was like, oh, thank God. Because I really, really wanted to like this, and I did. So thumbs up all round from all of us, which is a real, real delight. So I'm really pleased. So yeah, I'm going to stop gushing and let's talk a little bit about the episode. We begin with the teaser, and this has a few different things to it. I really liked the starting point of where we're on an alien planet. We're in what looks like a situation room that you would get in the 21st century, and they are making first contact and they see the Enterprise. What did you think of that? I thought that was a really clever way with the voiceover to kick this off.
That was really cool. Like, I was fully expecting for a human to turn around, and that was not a human.
Yeah.
Did we ever get a name for these people?
Well, we got the planet, didn't we?
Yes, we do. I have a note. The Keeley.
The Keeley?
Yeah, they're named in the credits. There's some people that are listed as Keeley, whatever.
Oh, good spot.
Okay.
Yeah, because the planet's Keeley.
Good job, because I missed that. So.
Yeah, the planet is Keeley 279 is what it's designated on the screen. So yeah, the Keelians. Okay.
I felt like the costuming choices for the Keeley were really interesting. Like, I felt like I should have been watching something from, like, a 1940s, like, 1950s, 1960s even, like, era style of, like, suits and dresses and things like that. I thought that was an interesting choice. But the facial markings and stuff honestly kind of made me think of, like, the 1980s, 90s Beauty and the Beast TV series that was Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman. Did you guys ever watch that one?
I remember it. I don't think I saw it a lot.
Like the the way the nose is, it looked like leonine, and it made me think of the Beast, who's played by Ron Perlman in that series. Fun fact: George R. R. Martin wrote that series.
Really? Wow.
Really. That's why he can't let go of that Beauty and the Beast motif. But that's a story for House of the Dragon. So anyway, but that was what it made me think of. I thought it was really interesting. I couldn't like not see that after I noticed it. But anyway, but yeah, I thought that opening was really cool because it was a neat misdirect. I was like, who is this person I'm following? I don't recognize her. I don't recognize the voice. Who are we listening to? But yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought that was a really cool way to kind of flip the table.
And then we head off to Montana, don't we? And we're reintroduced to Pike. He's got the beard. He's on a horse. It's very snowy. He's sleeping with a female fellow female captain who seems to be a bit of a hookup when she's around, and he's not in the best place. Did you guys though? And I'm sure this is intentional, and it's not necessarily a criticism, but this is very Kirk, isn't it? All of this is very Kirk. Even the idea of him being in a sort of middle American state, I guess, if you like, or that kind of heartland, that country heartland. And it's just, I don't know. Did you guys think that this was deliberately Kirky and that they are trying in some way to replicate Kirk and maybe even like older Kirk, the Kirk from the movies in some ways, as opposed to the Kirk from the original series for Anson Mount Pike?
I was thinking about in the cage, mentions that Pike enjoys horseback riding, and I've only seen the TOS movies once, so my Kirk knowledge is probably minimal compared with the other captains. But I thought that we're digging into like these little details that we get about Pike in the very few instances we even see Pike in the obviously in the original series, but the bit we get about him in Disco as well. My thing was maybe it's because he's in a cabin in the middle of Montana and it's supposed to be a little rustic. And I was like, this looks like very much like a 21st century house.
Yeah.
Maybe that's rustic. I'm like, oh, that TV's maybe a little bigger than mine. That's cool. But it still looks like a 4K flat screen TV. But my big thing, I was looking for like, because I love coffee, is like, how is Pike making his coffee? Oh, he's using a French press? They still use those in the 23rd century? That's funny. It's such a dumb little thing that my brain caught on to, but I don't know. I to answer your question, I don't know if it's Kirkian or not. But for me, it felt like we're establishing Pike as he's just kind of the salt of the earth, rustic, mountain man kind of guy, leaning into the shaggy hair and I'm going to call it the beard of sexiness. It does not need to be called the beard of sadness.
Yeah, fair enough. It could be both.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The beard of sexy sadness.
They should have called this episode that'd be better than Strange New Worlds. Just
subtitle. The beard of sexy sadness.
Yeah. What do you think, Craig? Are you? I mean, I don't think it's a problem. Incidentally, having said this at all, but what do you think, Craig, that this is very Kirky, all of this stuff?
No, I wouldn't say so, because I think you would imagine Kirk's hookups would be very different, but I got more of an Archer vibe from it, weirdly, because there was that captain that he was involved with in the episode Home. Hernandez, the NX-02 captain. And yeah, fair enough. It's an interesting idea for captains to do that when they're on their off time, pardon the pun, because they can't pursue relationships with their crew. Regulations don't allow that. So it makes sense. Yeah, when we're both on shore leave, we'll hook up because it's the only thing they can do, because the traditional Starfleet captains are married to their jobs. It's a big arc on Picard at the moment, isn't it? The fact that Picard has sacrificed a personal life for his career. And you get the impression that, other than Sisko, every single Starfleet captain pretty much does that. They don't pursue families. I suppose Riker as well, but you don't really see that. He has his wife on the Titan, but that's a different thing, and we don't see much of that. So yeah, I was okay with it. I didn't have a problem with it, and it's one of those things that give Pike a bit of personality, because you don't really know who he is, because he is the captain in season 2 of Discovery, largely. Whereas here it's like, yeah, okay, he has a personal life. Cool. That's good to see.
I got a little bit with the Admiral as well. I got a little bit of Admiral Forrest vibes there with their relationship. You talking about Archer. There was a little bit of that familiarity to it while still being respectful. You know, I quite like that. If that guy is recurring, you might have caught his name, Craig. I'm not sure.
April.
Actually.
Admiral April, yeah.
Robert April. It's not Robert April, is it?
Yeah.
Really? Is it actually Robert April that they've?
Yeah,
No.
because he calls him Bob. Yeah.
Oh wow! Okay, that's amazing. That's really good because he was never a canonical visual character, was he? April. I know there was the image of Gene Roddenberry was always what was put down for April, but there was never an image of him, was it? So he could easily be a black guy.
He's in the animated.
Am I right there?
Sure, he's in the animated series.
Oh, is he?
He's in an episode of that. Yeah.
Oh, of course he is. Oh well, that's not really canon, is it? Or maybe it is.
Some of it
is when they want it to be.
I mean,
depends.
That's where we get the middle name Tiberius.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
true.
That's where and Giant Spock is apparently canon because it's in Lower Decks too. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of it's
Never
canon.
mind.
The stuff they want
Some
to
of
be
it's-
canon will be canon.
Yeah, fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind this. This is fine. That's very cool, actually. It's Robert April. That's really good.
So it could be that April was his old captain, because
yeah.
non-canonically, April was the first captain of the Enterprise, so maybe he
That's right.
moved on and Pike moved up in the ranks and then took over the ship.
I love that. I think that's great. I did not spot that was April. That's brilliant. Admiral April. I love that. Okay, so that makes it even better then. So you've got a really nice relationship there that I thought was good. And it was funny how Pike's trotting out the, it's classified line. Why are you sad? It's classified. That's quite, and that's the thing, right? Let's get into this now, because it forms part of the plot generally. Like later on when he starts talking to Spock and he has that brilliant conversation about how he can reconcile knowing he's going to die, before his time with the mission and what he's doing and the kind of man he's supposed to be. I mean, you sort of answered this question, I think, at the top, Craig, really, when you're talking about the episode. But
with Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Was this a good idea to actually do this right at the beginning? Because this was the big thing going into this show that I was really curious about. I thought, are they, given how maudlin this whole thing and weird this whole thing is, that Pike basically turns into Davros from Doctor Who, essentially, and he doesn't obviously know that he gets a happy ending as such with Vina, after the menagerie and all this stuff. He doesn't know that bit yet. We do. He doesn't. So he just thinks he's going to have this horrific, accident, and he's going to be... So it's really maudlin. It's really down. And I thought, how are they going to start this preppy, exciting new, Enterprise 5-year mission with Pike with this going on? And I thought, are they going to ignore it? And at first I thought, they'll probably just ignore it, and then they'll maybe come back to it years down the line and stuff like this, if it does well. But I think it's great that they've hit this straight head on, that they've gone into it, and he's really down, and he's listless, he doesn't know, because that's exactly how you would be. That's exactly how you would be, I think, if you had this happen to you, and you'd foresaw your really disturbing future. And I'm really pleased that they factored this in. And actually, they've managed, for the most part, I think, to sort of wrap this up in the pilot, get him through the point where he's okay with it, and be able to free him of it. And I don't know about you guys. What do you guys think? I think that's really well. They did it really well here.
I'm glad they've seemed to have resolved it in this one episode. I don't know if it will be the end of it. I don't know if it will come up again. It might do. But I'm glad that if they were going to address it, then they did it now, rather than it being something that just gets brought up every week. Oh, I don't know what to do here. I might die soon. And I found it interesting that he knows when it's going to happen, because I didn't get the impression that he did from Discovery. I just got the impression that he knew it would happen, so he didn't know when. So I was expecting a point in this season that would be reminiscent of what he saw, and him to think, is this when it happens? And then it doesn't. But that's not going to happen. They've put a button on that pretty quickly. So I actually thought they dealt with it in Discovery, really. The bit where he said, yeah, fine, I'm going to accept my destiny, and that's it, because that's why I got into this. I knew that risk was part of the game. That's why I took this job, just knowing how it could end. So fine, I'm not going to worry about this necessarily. And then he's had some time to reflect and thought, don't like this. I'm uncertain about this. But yeah, I'm glad that they just took this episode to deal with that, hopefully. Because it would have frustrated me if every week Pike was just morbid and second-guessing
yeah, exactly.
and stuff.
I know. Yeah, that was my thought.
Well, and I think realistically, were I in Pike's shoes, yeah, I think I could get to a place where I would be at peace about it. But that doesn't mean sometimes it doesn't, like, yeah, the doubts and the fear of that, won't rear its ugly head. So, I mean, I won't be surprised, like, if he, has an episode where he gets stressed out about it, because I don't think it's realistic to pretend like, oh, well, I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to be okay. I don't know that is like I said, I don't know that it's realistic for him to not do that. But again, it would not be the first time we don't deal realistically with the ramifications of big emotional things in Star Trek. So
it's reminiscent of Trek of old in a way. Picard's assimilated by the Borg. He rolls around in the mud with his brother and he's fine. Back to work. Yeah. That kind of stuff. We'll have one episode where we process this, maybe, if you're lucky, and then we'll get on with it.
Maybe it's because it's such a science fiction emotional story, in the sense that this isn't something that's going to happen to anyone, in the modern world. No one's going to find some crystals that tell you how you're going to die. It's not something that anyone can really relate to, in the same way as, say, what's going on, without spoiling too much, what's going on in Picard Season 2 right now, for instance, or has happened in Picard Season 2, because you're going to be around the finale when you're listening to this, or you might have finished it. But with Picard and, domestic violence and all of these things that he's experienced as a child. And that's something that an audience can relate to, in terms of something to get through as at any age. Whereas this, it's such a science fiction-y idea that I think, had Pike been dragged with this for the rest of the series, or consistently, like you say, you guys are probably right in that it will crop up at some point, but it's a problem that they've had to resolve as opposed to create, because the problem was there right from the 1960s, and in order to be able to use Pike and tap this era of Star Trek again, in some ways they've had to deal with this. Whether they needed to do the episodes in season 2 of Discovery in quite that way is a good question. They didn't necessarily need to, but there's lots of little complications in terms of canon. In order to stay, with canon to some extent and continuity, they have to sort of write around things that are there. And I think they've done a pretty good job with this, in order to not ignore something that's important, not ignore the events of Discovery. And the other thing I thought was good was that with this, I don't think you need a PhD in season 2 of Discovery to enjoy this show, and that's very good, because there is quite a bit of backstory that sort of put them in the positions they are, but it's very lightly sort of touched on. Spock mentions that he misses Burnham without using Burnham's name. They mention the Discovery and how it was all classified, and then you get April at the end go, I had to go all the way to the top to find out, oh, bloody hell, that was a bit all weird, wasn't it? And all that kind of thing. So, well, he doesn't quite put it like that, but you know what I mean. But it's that whole, it's not going too heavily onto the previous continuity of these interlinked Star Trek shows. And I think that's also a smart move, because it allows them to tell what should be by the look of it, a fairly easy to attach to Star Trek show without either a big emotional weighty thing for Pike or, the burden of backstory. So I think they do both of those really well.
Well, I think the Pike thing is relatable in a way, because it's a terminal illness, essentially. He's been told he has 10 years to live, or less than 10 years to live. So that's something that a lot of people can relate to. And in terms of the storytelling, I think that's how they frame it, so that if you're starting with this show, you can follow it. Pike is upset because he's told he's going to die in 10 years, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. So I've never encountered anybody that has been given a terminal diagnosis, so I don't know what goes into processing that and then deciding to enjoy the time you have left or make the most of the time you have left. But yeah, I imagine there's something to latch onto there. And I think the Trek idealism shines through in the way that Pike does process it. And I actually do wonder if... I wondered this at the time when they introduced Pike in season 2 of Discovery, and everybody who was watching the show thought, this guy's great, want more of him. If the writers were thinking, why didn't we just call him Captain Spike and then we could keep him forever? Whereas you've got this built-in end date. I mean, you could have 10 seasons of television in a way before you get rid of him, I suppose, at this point. But still, there's a defined end point that you have to play with here, and that's limiting. And it's like, well, if you want to introduce Spock, we need Pike, I suppose. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, really, that they got tethered with this thing that was written like 60 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting anyway. I think they do a good job with some of this stuff. So at that point, Pike is back. He's going to head back to the Enterprise, going to shave the beard off, and we get the credit sequence. So let's talk about this. What did you guys think of the credits? Now, because these are surely the most traditional, classic Star Trek title sequence that we've had since probably Voyager, actually. So what do you guys make of it?
I enjoyed it. Like I was like, I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, this is where we bring in the old school fans, because they're gonna really enjoy this. I had totally forgotten that Nami Melumad, is that how you say her name? Yeah. Was doing the score for Strange New Worlds, and I screamed in delight.
Yeah, same. I forgot as well. I was pleased.
She doesn't do the theme, though, does she? Someone else is credited for the theme.
Jeff Russo does that.
Jeff Russo did the theme, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, do I remember right that he did the 2009 Trek?
No, he did Discovery, or does Discovery.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And Picard as well. I think he scores Picard too. I think.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he did the theme for Picard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then everything else was Jay Chataway. But yeah, so he does a lot of Trek themes. So yeah, you've got like this theme and variations on the Alexander Courage. You've got a theme and variations on the original Star Trek theme, and so that was kind of fun. The visuals to go along with it were really cool. I enjoyed those. I'm just waiting for there to be some version of we get some Trek show, maybe we'll get it in season 2, where they will sing the words that Gene Roddenberry wrote for the original Star Trek theme.
Well, that's in poor taste, because he only wrote them to rip Alexander Courage off to make sure he didn't get royalties.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry wasn't such a nice guy. He really was a bit ruthless.
I mean, for a guy who writes about a society for no money, he sure knew where his bread was buttered. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Did you guys love, thinking of speaking old things, did you guys love the Space, the Final Frontier from Anson Mount?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great, really. I thought that was lovely to have him do that on this. You know, and it's an Enterprise show, so, you know, it would feel weird if it didn't have it.
Yeah, he joins a very exclusive club in that respect.
He does.
Now, I vote for season 2. We get Anson Mount singing "Where My Heart Will Take Me."
The Enterprise
make it a
one,
yeah, make it a real Enterprise show, right?
Oh my God, the Faith of the Heart. Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah. Oh dear, that's a scary
Bruce Greenwood to do it, because he sings. He's a musician, isn't he? I don't know if Anson Mount is.
There you go. Oh, we're crossing timelines there, Craig. We can't do that.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
Have a Pike team up before this is over. We could. Why not?
Hey, the multiverse is the thing.
Duet.
Yeah. So we come out of those credits, and we're with Spock, and he's having a sexy dinner on Vulcan with T'Pring, his wife to be, and she proposes marriage in this. So now we mentioned, I think when we talked before, we mentioned T'Pring briefly when we were talking about the trailer for Strange New Worlds. Craig, I'm going to come to you for this. Does this...
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Mess canon up, or does this work with this whole sequence, or does this contradict anything in Amok Time from TOS?
I'm not sure because I don't remember Amok Time well enough. I can't remember if they mentioned whether they met before they were betrothed or not, or I don't know if they were trying to make Vulcans this type of arranged marriage society where it's, we'll let our kids get married when they grow up. I can't remember. I know that there was some kind of ritual associated with their marriage, but yeah, I should have rewatched the episode and I just didn't have time before this discussion. So I don't know. I think it's definitely in Amok Time they've not seen each other in a long time, that's for sure. There's definite gap there, so I don't know if this is essentially the last time they'll see each other. I suspect she's coming back over the season, although I feel like that scene is a sequel to Burnham's advice to Spock at the end of Discovery, where she says, find someone to get close to. And she's obviously talking about Kirk, or that's what we were supposed to infer from that. But that's what Spock's doing here. He's trying to make a connection, which is good. That's advice that he's taken. And this will be the wrong connection for him, ultimately, because it doesn't pan out. But
well, she says, doesn't she, at one point, just off, I can't remember the wording, but she says something like, you're off like gallivanting with Star Trek. Star Trek. You're
an astronaut on some kind of Star Trek.
You're off gallivanting with Starfleet. So she doesn't have much, interest or faith in what he considers to be a really important part of his life. And obviously we'll see throughout the years that he always prioritizes Starfleet and the Enterprise and the crew and Kirk's crew in the end. So that feels like a pointed... It is very much a relationship that's not going to work long term, but is important for his character development, I guess. So it's good that it's in there, I suppose. And Vulcan looks lovely. Like, it's beautiful. I'd love to go to that restaurant. Yeah. Gorgeous.
We've not seen Vulcan proposals before. Like, I didn't, or at least I didn't remember, getting that kind of information about, how does all of the courtship ritual work and blah, blah, blah. Like, so I'm like, this is the equivalent of getting down on one knee and offering Spock an engagement ring? Okay, that's cool. You get this cool little necklace and all that. That's kind of neat. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, and drawing that that conclusion, especially like they're about to consummate, and he gets a call from Pike, and Spock's like, "Oh wait, nope, duty," and she's like, giving him a look, like, seriously, dude.
I thought you were a fuck machine, Spock.
Yeah, for real. So
see you in 7 years to Pring, or however long it will be.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was all that was interesting to kind of get that cultural context, because I don't know that we'd ever really seen that before, at least in the TV shows. I don't know if there's anything like that in the books or whatever, but
probably. I think they've done everything in the books over the years.
I would be shocked if there was not like some Spock Ponfar book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, non-canon.
Being the one to propose is noteworthy in a way as well, because I guess it subverts expectations in some ways. Obviously, it's.
Yeah.
The tradition is the man getting down on one knee, but maybe not on Vulcan. So,
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
No, it's good. So, Pike has shorn himself. He's back to, clean shaven. Sorry, Ashley. The beard of sexy sadness is gone.
Sad.
And,
it's not regulation.
No. And we get a classic, the motion picture Starship porn moment, don't we? Where he's up on he's on the shuttle, and we see the Enterprise in classic old... I think that's the motion picture style space dock as well.
It was, yeah.
Close enough, yeah.
Having watched it somewhat recently, it was definitely very similar.
Yeah. Much truncated from the 3 hours sailing around the ship in the motion picture, which I love, but yeah, it's too long. So it's only brief, but it's a nice little wink to Star Trek Enterprise-based things of old. So that I appreciate that, certainly. And then we're on the bridge, and or on the ship, and he sees that, and we find out that Pike, obviously, because we're going after Una, so number one, the traditional number one, isn't in all of the episode. We meet her later again, but he's got a new number one in Lan Noonien Singh, played by Christina Chong. We talked about this in the roundtable discussion about how obviously this is a interesting choice to have a descendant of Khan in the show. Now, what did you guys think of her? Because obviously we get a little bit of backstory here. We learn a few things about her. She herself goes on a little bit of a character arc throughout this episode and comes out the other side with the possibility of being slightly different. I thought she was really good, actually. I thought she worked really well. What do you guys make of Lan?
Her connection to Khan isn't a thing at the moment. It's not even hinted at. There's mysteries associated with her, stuff that maybe she doesn't even know. But it's more about her traumatic past at the moment. The line, people survive things, was quite powerful, actually. I thought that was really good. And she's a bit of a mirror of Pike as well, because they're both dealing with issues that they can't resolve. And you have this mention of she's the only survivor of a Gorn attack, and she was cast out into space as the only survivor because that's what the Gorn do. I don't know if that violates canon, because I'm pretty sure that Kirk is the first captain to see a Gorn, but never mind. Whatever.
Wasn't there? Well, didn't she say something? Well, just on that subject though, didn't she say something about being on a colony ship as well?
Yeah,
wasn't that what it was?
That. Well, and then they were doing something with like botany or horticulture or something like that, and I was like, oh, Botany Bay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that's interesting. I hope we find a bit more there, because she obviously, I don't think there's a suggestion that she too is from like the 20th, late 20th century, and she's been frozen or anything like that. I don't think that's the case, but there's certainly there's some interesting stuff there. You know, like, as you say, Craig, there might be some canonical things with the Gorn, but the Gorn seems definitely to be something that's on the horizon, because Pike sees them on a pad as well about first contact with this species called the Gorn. So they're obviously going to bring the Gorn in, and maybe they'll be, you know, villains of some kind throughout the season. I'm not sure, but yeah, I thought she was a good character. She was very brittle. And I think Christina Chong played her really well, actually. She gave us some gravitas. She worked really well in contrast with Pike and Spock. Honestly, I think all of these characters really stood out immediately, like in a way that they absolutely didn't in Discovery, and still don't to some extent 4 seasons in. And I think straight away we have
which is an advantage.
I know, exactly.
Already.
I can name them all straight away.
I mean, it doesn't hurt that half of them are legacy characters.
True.
So, I mean, yeah, so we've got a little more familiarity with Nurse Chapel and Dr. Mbenga and Uhura and
well, Mbenga's a deep cut.
Spock,
Mbenga's a deep cut, though. Unless you know your Star
yeah,
Trek,
but
you're not gonna know
he's still a legacy character, though.
He
and
is.
you guys are deep cut guys. That's not an excuse.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true.
I thought it was really interesting that she is able to relate to Pike on a level that she doesn't understand that she's relating to him. Where they're having the conversation about how the one thing she noticed about watching everybody die is that they were surprised, and she always took it for granted that she was going to be the one who would die, and yet she was the one who didn't and was put out on the quote unquote the life raft or whatever. I thought that was really interesting, and it spoke to Pike in a way of, oh, he knows he's going to die. Or at least, like he said to Spock, like the man that he is, it's the death of the man he is right now. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting way to speak to his dilemma without her having any knowledge of it. I thought that was a really, really cool scene. And just the understanding that kind of seemed to awash over him in that moment was really, really great acting from both of them.
Yeah, well, I took down the line that's not believing you're going to die is what gets you killed. That was the one that Pike just looked and thought, that's interesting. You know, because that's exactly how he feels, right? He's, he knows he's going to die, or as close as, and he believes that. So, yeah, that's ultimately he needs to understand it. That's what's going to keep him alive, and that follows on from what Spock says to him earlier in the episode about essentially where he says, "You know this is going to happen. Make it work for you. That's what you need to do." So it's the completion of that lesson in a way, and she unexpectedly resonates with him because she doesn't know that she's doing it, as you said, Ashley, and he's Yeah, so he warms to her in that way, and I think that's why he wants to keep her around, because she understands him in a way that she doesn't even know. So that's why he needs her there, because she can be a real asset, because, yeah, she gets what it's like to know that the end is inevitable.
Yeah, definitely. That's good points. Did you also get the sense that she definitely understands or knows elements of her family history and he's anxious about them? But certainly with the genetic stuff, where obviously Mbenga and Chapel are injecting them with, Pike, Spock and La'an with this genetic code changing thing that can change their genetics, to infiltrate the Kylian planet. But she's very nervous about that, isn't she? And to me, that was a reference point for us in terms of genetics. And there's lots of hints as to saying, I've read your file and things like this. So I don't know. Is that her? Is there a level of like long-term legacy family guilt that she's feeling about this kind of stuff, and that's why she's very nervous and doesn't like the idea of that kind of thing? Obviously, it's not spoken out in this episode, and that might be something that comes around later. But they've got to be careful. They have to be very careful here about, particularly around Spock, I think, about...
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Saying too much about Khan, really. So they've really got to play this carefully, I would say.
I think it's more of a PTSD thing, at least from the point of view of this episode. She doesn't want to be sedated because that leaves her vulnerable. And the last time she was that vulnerable was when Gorn were trying to eat everyone she cares about. So
yeah, maybe
she just doesn't want to be in that situation, even though it's the safest situation she can be in because she's in sickbay surrounded by fellow officers. And I guess maybe her arc is maybe about actually trusting those people. So maybe there'll be a point later in the season where she says, "No, sedate me, I'm fine."
Could be. Yeah.
If nothing else, it made me want to go back and read more about Khan. Because I feel like because I didn't grow up with these characters, I feel like my understanding of Khan and his backstory is very minimal and very passing, and so I want to try to figure out more about her relationship to that character and how that might play into this one. I as somebody who doesn't have that deep history, to me, it raised questions like, oh, I've read your file. And I was like, well, does that mean that she has weird PTSD stuff? Or does that mean that she has weird genetic stuff that, for her, she feels it's too great of a risk to receive the anesthetic or not anesthetic, or whatever. The
genes.
She doesn't want she doesn't want the painkiller.
Maybe she's hiding that it wouldn't work if she is genetically enhanced.
Right. So, if nothing else, I had more questions than conclusions about that.
And I think
that's definitely. That seems to be the point, yeah. So, no, interesting. Some interesting stuff. We'll come back to Khan and the eugenics wars later, because I do have a point of question that I want to put to you guys. Yeah, so what about the rest of the crew? So, we know there's Ortega's, who's the new sort of helm officer. We don't know a lot about her yet, but I'm sure we'll get into that as time goes on. Uhura, obviously a young cadet Uhura, who is very sweet, I thought. She's
she's so fun.
She is.
And just charming, and she's just like chatting it up with the Keeley guy in the elevator, and he's like, "Oh, what is it, tag ball?" I was like, "Oh, tag ball, blah blah blah." Yeah. And
that was lovely.
And it was like this beautiful alley-oop between like her and Chapel to knock him out.
I loved that bit. I thought the actor Celia Rose Goodin, who plays young Uhura, is very, very, like you said, very charming. That whole thing where she goes, "Hi," in that guy who's terrified, and then she just disarms him really well, and I think in an emotional way, and I thought that was lovely. I thought because really, as great as Nichelle Nichols obviously was as Uhura, we don't know Uhura massively well necessarily as a character, because it was just the way she was written back then, and the way things, or even through the movies, it was the same. So this might give us a bit more of an insight into some of what Uhura makes Uhura tick in this universe, anyway. Because obviously we've had Zoe Saldana's version, but this is slightly different. She's a different kind of Uhura here, and she was lovely. She was great. So I really appreciated her. And what about Chapel? So obviously, I think we were talking a little bit about this, Craig, beforehand, and about how she seems quite different from Majel Barrett's performance in the original series. She's got a lot of vim about her, hasn't she? A lot of zest, this Christine Chapel. What do you guys think of her?
I thought she was great. For me, it felt like a course correction to allow the women to have more personality like they should have had in the original series. And we don't get that as much. And also because the original series took itself very, very seriously. So I personally, as a lady, I found it delightful that we get like super chatty, personable, friendly, funny Uhura, and then we get super sassy Nurse Chapel, who's like, "Oh, yep, I'm gonna do this. You're walking off the elevator. Psst, there you go. We're gonna knock you out." And oh, by the way, also I'm like a genetics specialist versus I'm just a nurse in sickbay. I thought that was really, really cool. Just to have them both be able to be fleshed out more, have some more personality. For me, it felt like a course correction from the original series, and I'm okay with that. I don't care that you don't see as much of that in the original series. I think it's important that we have that now, because women are women, and they're people, and they're interesting. Sorry, they are, and we don't see that a lot in older television.
Yeah, she's very different to the original series portrayal of her, where she was very serious and she had that crush on Spock, which may manifest throughout this series.
Who doesn't have a crush on Spock?
You might see that start, but there was at least one episode where she was infected with spores or whatever, and she couldn't keep her feelings for him in check, that kind of stuff. So that was essentially her purpose in the original series. Whereas, here she's a genetics expert. She also takes a bit of pleasure in what she's doing, in sort of tormenting people in a way. And whatever happened to the first or the undercover protocols where they just stuck plastic faces on people? Why are they temporarily altering DNA, especially with the aversion to genetic changes that Star Trek seems to have and has had since the 60s, since they brought that up in that one episode? It's we hate genetic engineering, we don't trust it, blah blah blah. But I don't know, I liked Chapel in this, and I liked Uhura. It showed why she's a prodigy, because she quickly glommed onto something that would disarm the scared alien running around the ship. And I thought the moment itself was a bit cheesy, because it's, this alien that I've never seen before has mentioned tag ball, so therefore I'm fine now. It's a bit, you'd still be freaked out, right? Because you're still talking to an alien, regardless of whether they talk about your favourite sport. But Uhura understands how to relate to other cultures. It's not just about learning the language, it's about approaching them on their level, which is great. And that's very much the Zoe Saldana Uhura approach, as in she's the best at what she does for that reason. And she's a bit like Tilly, but also at half strength, as in she's really excited to be there, but she's not bouncing off the walls in the way Tilly was. And so it's the same idea. She's the cadet, she's the fast-tracked prodigy cadet on the ship because she's so good at her studies or whatever. So like at the end she's like, oh cool, when they say let's go or whatever, so she's that. But I know some people found Tilly quite annoying early on in Discovery. I never did, but I know some people did, because she was that just ball of enthusiasm, whereas Uhura is a more subdued version of that, which I think works really well. And it means that they're not just copying what they did before, they're giving you that again, but in a different way, which is good.
No, some very enjoyable, fun characters. I think there's a good mixture of people here. There's a good mixture of legacy characters we know, some new ones people are going to get to see a little bit more. So yeah, it's a really good start in that sense. Let's talk a bit about the plot then, because obviously they head off for what is Keeley 279. and obviously the setup is that the USS Archer, nice little callback to Enterprise there, went on a first contact mission that Una was involved in, and because there was a detection of what they think is a warp drive on this planet, and obviously that triggers the nascent first contact policy in Starfleet, and it turns out to be something very different once they figure out it's actually a warp bomb. And this is all a big then play on essentially which is quite and obviously this was filmed quite a while ago, but this is quite timely given what's happening in the Ukraine with all the anxieties now about nuclear conflict. There's obviously now two factions who are developing a bomb that can wipe out the other one. And it's a classic old school, almost Cold War idea really that has been revisited here. A warp bomb is a new one, isn't it? I don't know if we've come across something like this before in Star Trek. So what did you guys think of this as like the gambit to get them to this planet and to try and sort this out?
I thought that was an interesting choice. It was a nice way to connect this series with Discovery, showing that, oh yes, while it was absolutely necessary for Discovery to do what it did, you're showing that there were consequences for that when they left this particular timeline. And so, yeah, we're going to be dealing with some of the repercussions from that, with these having this warp stuff. And that was interesting to think about it, because when we think about warp, we tend to think FTL drives, and we never think, oh, this is a new way to make a bomb. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. But it also made me think, like, if that happened now, like, would we make FTL drives or would we make a bomb?
Well, we'd make a bomb.
That's a good question.
We'd definitely make a bomb.
We would totes make a bomb.
We really would. Yeah.
Yeah, the rocket engine's also a missile, right? That's it can be used as both things.
There's some stuff I want to comment that happens later in the episode, so I don't know if I should talk about that now.
I'll go for it. Bring it in.
Yeah, okay. So when and it's something that we get in the trailer, we see Pike transporting into the middle of what looked like a debate, which was interesting. But he does his PowerPoint presentation of here's how we got here, and people rag on Disco for being quote unquote woke Trek. Which, I mean, it just, to me, is a completely asinine statement, because it means you don't understand anything about Star Trek at all. Two, they show, as an American, them showing images of the January 6th Capitol riots and invasion, particularly that they showed the hangman's noose that was fashioned there at the Capitol. That was a really bold statement, and they're going to piss a lot of people off, and I do not care.
They really are. They really are with that.
I don't. Sorry. But, showing, if nothing else, even, regardless of what you may or may not think about those sorts of things, but the point of the story, even if you wanted to, try to quote-unquote depoliticize it or whatever, is that these are people, we are in sharp conflict and sharp disagreement, and we don't know how to talk to each other. All we know how to do is yell at each other and stir up ruckus, and that's effectively what these two groups of Keeley are faced with. Like, we don't know how to talk to each other other than to blow each other to hell. So how do we deal with this? And I thought that was very, very poignant.
I think there's two things with this. I was quite shocked when I saw that footage. I was like, wow, this is, and then essentially to go on and say, exactly, and then to go on and say that this was the forerunner to the second American Civil War, which is what they now have built into Star Trek canon before World War III, and that it was all a line, right, that travels through to World War III, and there's still, fairly enigmatic reasons as to in Star Trek lore as to why that happened in the 2040s or whenever it was, 2030s. Now, I thought that was really quite bold because, I mean, right now in the political discourse, there are a lot of anxieties about a possible second American Civil War, however that would take, in whatever shape that would take. And I think, quite honestly, it's a fair anxiety to have, given what's happening. But previously, though, in Star Trek, I had no problem with this and this whole story. In fact, I thought this whole story was great. I thought it was a really great way to try and establish what part of what Pike's mission and the Enterprise mission and Starfleet's mission is, to try and go in there and say there is a better way of doing this than destroying yourselves. Oh, that's fantastic. That is very in the spirit of TOS. But in TOS, actually, I was going to say I don't remember there being kind of stock footage used, but that's not true, is it? I'm pretty sure in a couple of, certainly the Guardian of Forever, doesn't the Guardian of Forever show footage of like, you know, wars happening, the Second World War, things like that. So actually, maybe TOS, maybe I'm going to contradict my own point here, because maybe TOS did do this once or twice, where they actually show footage of things that happened before in order to make a commentary.
Or Paramount
in a
movies, I think,
realm.
Something like that. Yeah, there was definite footage pulled from somewhere.
I think
whether
there
it be
was.
News or fiction, but yes, they've done it before.
But the difference, I think, here is that it's very pointedly trying to draw a line between right-wing American extremism right now and the ultimate essential self-destruction of the planet, you know, and certainly the United States. You know, you see the whole, an entire United States city destroyed in what looks like a nuclear blast. And I mean, that is really bold and that is really powerful. And I think it's a bit of it's setting its stall out. It's quite fearless. And like you said, Ashley, it is really going to piss a lot of people off. And I think that is
Can't wait.
maybe quite intentional. and I'm really quite surprised they did that. And they did go for that kind of on the nose, point with this whole plot. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who are angry at that it wasn't more obliquely allegorical, and they as opposed to actually using footage like this and drawing that very clear line and bringing in 2020's divisions and political issues in a way that Star Trek hasn't always done. So I was fascinated by that. What did you think, Craig?
I thought this was really interesting, and it's a classic original series type story, as in we've encountered a planet that are essentially us, either now or in the future where a wrong path has been taken, and Captain Kirk's here to fix your society. That's what a lot of original series stories were. He's here to, well, I suppose it was Americanize your society back then, wasn't it? Because that was seen as the better way. But in this, it's very pointedly, look, you guys are exactly where we were at this point in the 2020s, which just so happens to be the point we're at when we're watching it now. And if you're not careful, you're going to destroy yourselves, because that's all you're thinking about. You're thinking about who has the bigger stick than the other guy. It's not subtle in any way, but I think we're beyond the point of subtlety in Star Trek, aren't we? The message isn't getting across to people. That's why things are getting worse. That's why right-wing extremism's on the rise. That's why all these things are going wrong. This is why we, in the UK, not to get political, sorry, in this Star Trek podcast, but that's why in the UK we are daily almost uncovering other lies that our leaders have told us. Those are
Craig, this episode started it. Don't worry, right? They put that capital stuff in there, right? Don't worry, they started the political chat.
Yeah, it was fake. Yeah. So I'll get off my soapbox and back to the what the episode is telling us. But the way that Pike describes it, it's very calm. It's very matter of fact. It's here's what happened. This was in our past. It was the wrong call. I'm showing you a glimpse of what your future could be, or you could make a choice and do better. You could join the Federation. We will help show you a better way. You can push aside all these differences and just work towards making something better. And ultimately, that's the message that everybody needs to internalize at the moment. Otherwise, we won't get anywhere. And I really loved that messaging because it was just so well delivered. It was preachy, but not in an obnoxious way. It was just in a...
No.
This makes sense, right? Why aren't you doing this? And then ultimately those people listened to Pike, and he felt a measure of responsibility because General Order 1, the Prime Directive, that'll never stick, as they say in this episode, but General Order 1 prevents them from doing that, but it's like we're already involved. So therefore, it's our responsibility to make sure that they use this knowledge that we accidentally gave them properly, or at least give them the choice. And you get the impression that if they'd said, no, we're just going to blow each other up, Pike would say, well, I tried. Sorry, I'm going to have to go. It's not on me to shape your society in that way. But yeah, it's very clear what they're saying. They're saying, the society that's watching the show is at a crossroads, and here are your choices. Please make the right one so that we can keep making Star Trek and not blow ourselves up.
It was like the one time I've ever felt like, oh man, I really hope Star Trek is wrong about this, or like, is this what we have to go through to get Starfleet? Can we please try a different path, different option for this? I don't want to have like World War III and second American Civil War. No, thank you.
Well, I mean,
but that's ultimately what Pike's saying, right? You don't have to go through this. You don't have to get there on this path. That's just how it happened to us, and it sucked, but it doesn't have to be that way. Yes, but
there was footage, Craig. There was footage.
and you know, there are some political theorists who think we're already in World War III, and and once Putin invaded Ukraine, that's when it started. So, you know, who knows? Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities. But the thing is,
and we're past the breaking point for climate change as well, depending on who you ask. Yeah. So yeah, we're buggered. There's nothing we can do.
We are buggered, but like it's but this episode does have a lot of hope to it, and I'll come to that in a minute. But what I wanted to mention was you talking about the fact it's like a different version of Earth. It is that idea that was in TOS, which they didn't really carry on in the 90s and the 80s, of the parallel sort of development theory that was in TOS. And you saw in this episode, when they beam down and we get the brilliant Spock in shorts moment, which made me howl with laughter, I have to say. You get them it felt like Patterns of Force. It reminded me of Patterns of Force, actually, in TOS, which was a different kind of story, because that was all about a Nazi parallel. But it was the idea of, and you saw it in a lot of these stories, didn't you? You saw it in a piece of the action, you know, where you have, you have the gunslinger, the gangsters and all that kind of thing. You saw it in the Roman episode and all this kind of stuff. And it's something that was
the overpopulation episode as well. That one where we could give you birth control and that'll solve your problem.
Yeah. And I think it's great that they've brought that back, even if it's just this one. They can't overdo that idea. And TOS arguably did, in the end, overdo that idea. But I think it's great that they brought that back, and they had these characters explore that in terms of this plot. I thought that was fantastic. I thought that was a really nice way of doing it. But the other thing I thought was interesting, this was what I mentioned earlier, was that when Pike is talking through this sort of timeline, he mentions the eugenics wars. Now, he sort of seems to suggest that the eugenics wars might have come after the Second Civil War. It's a funny old canon point, isn't it? Because in TOS, the eugenics wars were supposed to be in the 90s. And obviously, that was at that point, when they were writing TOS, they thought the 90s was probably going to be this space age Jetsons kind of era. And it turned out not to be, obviously.
This show will be forgotten about by then. Who cares?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, yeah.
Very disappointing.
Yeah. So they've had to really write round all that stuff. And, you know, the Greg Cox wrote a brilliant few non-canon novels trying to figure out the eugenics wars in a really clever way, which in my head I try and apply as canon in my head. But it's interesting how that is, and that obviously is an interesting point of reference given La'an. I don't know whether I have issues with rewriting certain things, but some of these things are so fluid and are so uncertain in Star Trek. I think it's okay maybe to sort of badge a few things together at points, really, and you know, as it could simply be that Spock got the dates wrong, you know, in Space Seed, you know, and I don't know. It's interesting how it's utilizing all these things to make this broader point about, you know, self-destruction and you know, all this kind of thing, which is very timely. So I don't know whether did that strike any chord with you guys, or what did you think of that?
It stood out, but it didn't bother me, because in Voyager they went back to 1996, which is the year Khan left, and no sign of any eugenics war going on. It was just our world, except Microsoft didn't exist. It was ChronoWorks or whatever they were called. That was really the only major difference. So, yeah, it didn't bother me. Also, it has already moved slightly, because Archer says in an episode of Enterprise that his grandfather fought in the eugenics wars, which automatically moves it much later in the timeline, because...
Yeah, that's true.
Even his grandfather's a bit of a stretch, actually, because it's still 200 years, but...
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Yeah, they've already moved it. It depends how long the conflict lasted, I suppose. They don't really tell you, but yeah, I've read those novels you're talking about, and they bring in Gary Sivan and so on. He's involved, and they try and throw in historical events and try and match it all up to imply that the whole thing happened essentially in secret. Khan ruled in secret and whatever, and then he left when he was defeated. And yeah, that worked, I think. I think that was a good story. They managed to make it work. And there was a whole thing that Nicholas Meyer was supposed to be doing. It was supposed to be some kind of Khan story that might have been set on SETI Alpha 5, like a mini-series, but then maybe it would flash back to eugenics wars. I do wonder if we're going to get more context about that, because we haven't seen the end of Picard yet, but maybe they'll at least mention the eugenics wars when they come about. I don't know, but it didn't bother me, but it did stand out to me that, oh, okay, so that's all part of that World War III situation. Interesting.
There's some interesting tethers here, but it doesn't detract from what is a really well-executed plot, I think, what is a really solid story, well told, and I like the optimism of it. I like the fact at the end, he says we have to keep living because the future is what we make it, and that's a great way to end on it. It doesn't end, and then there's the conversation at the end about sea pods that during World War III they sent sea pods into space to protect life, and then the first starbase was built around those sea pods. I thought that was great. I thought all that was lovely. It was a way of protecting the climate and
a space seat, perhaps.
Yeah. So I think, because optimism is something that I think people have said about Discovery, about Picard, that has been lacking at points in this modern Star Trek. So to be able to tell a story like this, which does have, as you said, Ashley, some really worrying elements in terms of what it's trying to suggest about our modern world, to actually be able to sort of say, everything will be all right in the end if we, if we stop and think, if we start. I think it's a really good message to put out there straight away.
And then there was the nuclear deterrent type point that was made as well. The whole, you think having that bigger stick means that you won't get attacked. Well, that's not what happened to us. But then Pike says, I'm going to force you to listen to me because I have the bigger stick. And there's the Enterprise in the air. And it's like, I can wipe out your city with a shot, but I'm not going to. If you listen to me, I'll not do it. It's that he's kind of bluffing about it, and he does that bit about the rules, they're there for a reason, but they're also there to be broken. And I've always kind of seen the Prime Directive as weirdly dogmatic. In certainly the Berman era, they talk about it as this, you can't breach it, but it should be a guideline, I think. And that's certainly Picard's approach to it most of the time. It's like, well, we're already broken it, might as well go all in now. And it's a rule, but it doesn't apply in all cases, doesn't apply practically absolutely. So that's what Pike's doing here. He's recognising that, well, we've already interfered, we didn't mean to, so we have a responsibility to do this, and that's ultimately the argument there. But it's this, certainly in some of the others, it's almost like you're burned at the stake if you breach the Prime Directive, whereas it shouldn't be like that, because it is a rule. They are written with very particular conditions in mind, and those conditions don't apply in the real world necessarily. They certainly don't here.
Well, and it's a great way to have discussions about nuance, which nobody or at least not, I won't say nobody, but the majority of people that sit in our elected offices have no comprehension of, or they just don't care. Or they don't care to think a little harder about how this might be more complicated than it seems. And in pick a side, everybody does it. And so I think it's really great that we're having this discussion. Like, yeah, the Prime Directive is a great idea. Let's not interfere with their development. They need to develop on their own. They have to figure this out themselves. And, you're respecting their autonomy and things like that. You're not swooping in and trying to, save them from themselves or whatever. And that, because that historically speaking, that does not work out well. But what do you do? Like when you're in a situation like this where like, oh, we've inadvertently interfered. We didn't mean to, but we have a measure of responsibility to help them now that they've been exposed to this thing that now they're, basically using it to, again, it is a nuclear pissing contest is what it effectively comes down to. So it's a really great way to have discussions about nuance and to think about, this is what I love about science fiction is you take these really difficult concepts and you get to talk about them in an abstract way and think about how does this apply now. And Star Trek is really great about doing that. And even though they're a lot more didactic, I would say in this episode than I've seen in Star Trek in a long time, I think this is a really important discussion to have. This is honestly, I wish some of these new Trek shows would make their way to broadcast TV so they would be more accessible because, not everybody can swing the $100 a year for bougie Paramount Plus with no ads. Let's figure out a way to make this content and these ideas more accessible so people can start thinking differently. Because you say DS9 gets no love. I think one of the best episodes of all Star Trek period is Far Beyond the Stars, where he says you can't destroy an idea. This is ancient knowledge, and that idea is these higher ideas are often, if they're conveyed through art, they eventually become more accepted because your art showed you how this was possible or how this could work. And I think we're getting that with Star Trek every day. Like, I watch Star Trek and I want to go be a better human afterwards.
And the original
not
series
a lot of art does
existed
that.
at that pivotal point in history, didn't it? It's that it was the 60s was a big forefront of social change. A lot of that has sort of been undone now in a lot of ways because of this regression that we seem to be in as Western society, which is really upsetting. Yeah. And then, every day you look at what's going on and you think we are further away from the Trek idealism, the Trek future than we ever have been, almost, which is, it's upsetting. And you get the impression just that the message isn't getting across to people, and you do have to beat them over the head with it. I watch a lot of the CW shows, as I've talked about in previous podcasts, and Supergirl in particular was very overt with its social commentary because it has to be, right? Like, fiction has to be at the moment. It has to say, look at how much this sucks. We're going to beat you over the head with how much this sucks until you get the message. And that's what happens here. Pike just gets in front of these people and says, here's how destructive this path is for you, but here's how you can do better. And then that's it. It's a simple message, but at the same time, we're beyond subtlety. I think Next Generation was much more subtle in these ideas. Deep Space Nine was, and Voyager was as well to an extent, but we're past that point now. People really need to be beaten with it at this point.
But it could afford to be. They could afford to be because they were in a time where we had reached a level of progressive awareness and they were able to reflect more. Whereas TOS, the reason that did strike chord, and I think one of the reasons Star Trek stayed around was that it did have big ideas and it was commenting on a lot of the things that were going on at the time. Civil rights, Vietnam, women's rights, all of these things. And it did really put that out there and it got people talking. And particularly into the 70s as well, when it was on repeats and things like this, when it really took off even more so. And it did do that then. Whereas I think now that's what we need Star Trek to be. And at the same time, it was still forward thinking and it was aspirational, And I think that's where, for me, parts of Discovery and Picard have in the past failed because they've basically just sat in the mire with us and gone, it's awful, isn't it? It's awful, right?
It's awful,
we're all doomed.
Yeah, it's not getting any better, right? So just deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, and there hasn't been a great deal of messaging. It's just been action, plot, emotion, sadness. Yeah. We don't need that. We need really strong, progressive ideas discussed, chewed over, with characters who we want to be like, people we want to aspire to, and that's what it needs. That's what Star Trek needs, and that's why I loved this pilot, because I think that's what this could be, and that's what it looks like it is from this episode. And if it keeps on with this style, this tone, and actually stops and tells us fucking story, in an episode, and actually gives us something to think about at the end of the day, as opposed to 13 episodes of the same thing every week, then that's what Star Trek is, and that's what it should be. So
well, I think it's famously, isn't it, that Nichelle Nichols wanted to quit the show because they weren't giving her enough as an actor to do, and Martin Luther King said, don't, because what you're doing is important. They might not be giving you much to do, but the fact that you're there is important, and that's the most telling thing. That tells you how influential Star Trek was, because people were watching it, and there's a black woman on the bridge, and other black women are watching it and thinking, I could be doing that. I could be in a position of responsibility.
And that is one of the best things about Discovery is that we have that now with non-binary characters, and that's brilliant. Yeah. And
there's no straight white males on the Discovery cast.
No,
none.
And the fact we have a black female
to the
captain.
Storytelling.
Yeah, no, that's all wonderful, and that is brilliant. The issues with Discovery are different. That is all fantastic. Yeah. That's what Star Trek does need, definitely.
Let us all collectively jump off the soapbox.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Hey, I was progressive before it was cool, right?
So, yeah, obviously, Una's rescued. We see she's pals with La'an, and that'll be explored a little bit later, I think. And then we get the setup for the future. You know, Pike and everyone, they get off with a bit of a slap on the wrist after April sort of exploits a loophole, a technicality, and they're potentially off. And when we get just before the end, we get the very sneaky, Lieutenant Kirk is going to join us on the bridge, because we had a mention at the very beginning that Lieutenant Kirk's coming aboard, and everyone's thinking, oh, really? Really? I thought he was coming into it in season 2.
See,
what the hell?
I thought was like, oh man, seriously? I wanted to do stuff without Kirk. Sorry, Kirk is my least favorite captain. Well, I'm just going to put that out there.
Fair enough.
Do not at me. I like Kirk. I'm not saying I don't like Kirk, but he is my least favorite Star Trek captain. I was like, I want to learn about these other people.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree. Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree with that. And so, what do we think about the sneaky subversion that this isn't James T. Kirk, but rather Samuel Kirk? I thought, you crafty bastards. I quite liked it, though.
It got me.
I just loved it.
Yeah, it got me.
Yeah. It got me too. But you know what? I love that they brought him in, and he's kind of like the Wario version of Chris Pine, and similar build, darker hair. Oh, let's give him a giant mustache. That's funny.
Well, that's a callback to the assignment, whatever it is, the name of the episode. I forget. Anyway, the one that Samuel Kirk is kind of in, where it's just Shatner playing a corpse with a fake mustache on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I gotta go find that now, because I've seen
Operation
that
Annihilate.
Before,
that's what it is. That's the episode title.
Okay. All right. Now I've got to go look. That's really funny.
It's really funny. If you looked up, I don't know if it's still the same now, but if you look up on Memory Alpha, that's the picture. Just Shatner with a fake mustache, looking dead.
That's great. Okay. Awesome. All right, well done. I like that even more now. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So no, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Samuel Kirk, how he interacts with Spock, and then obviously as we.
Fargo, the new virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, makes banking faster and easier. Like this.
Fargo, what's my checking account routing number?
And this.
Fargo, turn off my debit card.
And this.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries last month?
And that's just the beginning. Do you, Fargo? You can. In the Wells Fargo mobile app. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Terms and conditions apply. Your mobile carrier's availability and message and data rates may apply. Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
As reports have come out that James T. Kirk is going to be on the show eventually, it'll be interesting to see the Kirk brothers, I imagine, which I think we're going to probably get in this show. So they're obviously setting some stuff up there. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see. So that's it. They warp off to another adventure, and Star Trek: Strange New Worlds has begun. So it's gonna be a fun ride. This is a great pilot, really entertaining, sets everything up really well. Some really great characters. I am genuinely excited to keep watching and to talk some more episodes of this, as I'm sure you guys are as well. So.
Sure.
So yeah, bring it on.
Before we wrap, may I comment on one thing that kind of bugged me about the episode, which is why I didn't read it higher, as much as I enjoyed a lot of it. The one thing that really griped me is at the end of Disco Season 2, Spock's suggestion to the Admiral is that we can't talk about the Discovery under penalty of treason. And then we're in the elevator, and Una's like, I can't talk about it in front of her. It's classified. And Pike's like, hold my Romulan ale. Let's talk. I don't care. I was like, dude, penalty of treason.
Yeah.
This is bad.
It's only bad if
and
they
then,
get told on, though. That's...
Well, and then at the end, like, oh, well, we're just going to let you off on this technicality because technically we can't talk about Discovery. It's like, you just talked about it in front of people who can't know this information. I mean, clearly you're giving the middle finger to all of this anyway. Like, I mean, it's going to be like the worst kept secret on the Enterprise. So, I don't know.
I suppose
anyway,
it's kind of like the Prime Directive, isn't it? It's under ideal circumstances we won't discuss this, but sometimes it calls for it. For example, we have to say this in front of Lan because we need to know what's going on here, and we don't have the luxury of waiting to get beamed out and stuff. So, I think the situation was
you couldn't have just said,
okay.
Lan, cover your ears, la 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 la.
Put your fingers in your ears and pretend you didn't hear this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's classified, didn't happen.
No.
It's a good point. That is a good point. We'll have to see how they might just be this episode, to set everything up. They might just thin out those references, but we'll see.
If they're chatting about it every week, that'll be a pain in the arse.
Yeah, that won't be good.
Yeah.
But no, good spot there. Good spot. So, Ashley, you're going to be back for the next episode as host with a new guest, and Craig, you're doing episode 3 with a whole new guest, and then I'm doing episode 4 with a whole new guest, and then you'll have Mike and Ian back for episode 5, and then we'll see about the rest of the season as we go. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun ride. Until we see you guys again, though, why don't you both direct us to where we can find out more about what you're doing and what else you're up to? So, Ashley, why don't you go first?
All right. Few different places you can connect with me. You can hit me up on the tweets. I am on Twitter at The Nerdy Blogger. You can like my Facebook page, facebook.com/The Nerdy Blogger. You can read my blog, nerdyblogging.wordpress.com. You can also read my work on fangirlish.com while right now I am writing a whole bunch about Star Trek. You can hear my words being read on the Sci-Fi 5 podcast. That's 5 minutes of science fiction history, 5 days a week. And aside from here on We Are Starfleet and many other podcasts on the We Made This podcast network, you can hear my own words, or my own podcast, rather, I do with some friends called Dearly Debated, where we fuss at each other about film, television, video games, comics, whatever we're geeking out about. Also, just be advised, probably over the next several weeks, once Strange New Worlds release, my Twitter is probably going to become a Lieutenant Ortega Stan account, so just brace yourself. Sassy lady with short hair and she sword fights, we're going to be friends. So that's, we're going to be friends.
I
am also a sassy lady with short hair that sword fights. So.
Craig, what about you then?
Mainly I can be found over on Kneel Before Blog, where I review... Well, I haven't written my review as we're talking, but it will be there by the time this launches. It will all happen all at once, as long as I just find the time to just sit down and do it. So that's mainly where you can find me. I'm reviewing, or have reviewed, depending on what tense you want to use, Picard. I review Superman and Lois, The Flash, etc. So I do a lot of those kinds of things, review the odd film too. There's an attached podcast called Kneel Before Pod. I don't know what our latest episode will be by the 5th of May. But it will be the Star Wars Day one. We do Revenge of the Sith. It's time for that one this year. So that's what you can find there. Over on We Made This, I'll be found on here talking about this show, preaching about moral lessons that the episodes are telling us week on week. I will be doing some of that, probably, depending on what the episode gives us. And you can find me on various other shows, Real Talk, Podcast 616, etc., etc. So I'm all over the place. And personally on Twitter, I'm under Nemesis4909, which is not a Star Trek reference, not originally. It was a Resident Evil reference originally. So, once again, contractual obligation fulfilled. I beamed down in the middle of a debate to just tell you that.
Quite right. Would not be in episode talking about Star Trek on We Made This without that, Craig. So excellent.
People need to know. People need to understand the distinction.
They do.
They need to understand that there's a history.
It's important. It's important. You can find me at AJ Black Writer, mainly on Twitter. That's where I mainly hang out. You can find my website, culturalconversation.co.uk, with links to my writing and books and things like that. And you can check me out on various and sundry podcasts on the We Made This network at W Made This. So come and find me over there. I'm on all kinds of things. And it's been really great to talk about this with you guys. So thanks again. Thanks for everyone for listening to this episode of We Are Starfleet with this slightly new set of hosts and format going forwards. And please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Give us a rating and review if you haven't already. 5 stars, please. That would be amazing. And if you want to help out the network, please consider supporting us on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/We Made This. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, however, is not all we're discussing, so we'll give you a little taste of what you might have missed on the network in just a moment. But until next time, hit it.
Elsewhere on We Made This.
A Dream Given Form, a Babylon 5 podcast.
The isolationism is talked about a lot in the episode, but it's entire. But Londo's isolation is so heartbreaking to watch. Their final scene of dialogue together between Londo and Jakar it's so powerful when Jakar says, I can't forgive this entire, but I can forgive you. And that music, as Londo touches Jakar's arm and leaves, gives me goosebumps. It's so beautifully done.
I'm not going to lie, that I kind of welled up when Jakar forgave him. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does get me. But yeah, it's a very sad story, but that's what makes Londo's journey such a captivating journey to watch throughout the 5 seasons.
Free with this month's issue.
This is Skin Lab and Dissolve.
Yep.
That f***ing riff, man.
What a track.
So good.
I love that lyric as well. I'm disappointed that he didn't write it himself.
Did he not?
No. Which one? It's not what they call It's What You Answer To is a W.C. Fields quote. I've just looked it up. Ah.
Oh, I quite like that even more now.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say it was a WCW quote.
Yeah.
Oh, Sting coming out. Yeah. Bit of that Eric Bischoff in the middle of the ring. Yeah, let's re-record it, and Ian, if you could just say that'd be fantastic. Sure. But no, I love this. It's definitely Machine Head influence, isn't it? I mean, they're from San Francisco, so which isn't a million miles away from the Bay Area, of course. But,
there's a bit of Far Beyond Driven era Pantera in there as well, particularly with the deep, low voice in the verses.
Oh, yeah.
Geek Polymath.
So what is it about RuPaul's Drag Race that particularly appeals to you over everything else that you could possibly like in geek culture?
It's impossible to narrow it down to one thing because it's literally everything about it is everything that I like. So you've got legitimate competition because 9 times out of 10, the loser is the one who does the worst. So one of the problems with reality TV is that they keep the controversial people in and they send home the boring people. That's something that happens in reality, and it becomes quite disappointing.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.